Welcome to my kitchen. Okay, I know it looks like a mini spaceship, but it isn't. What it is the Breville Pizza Oven. I've been truly impressed with Breville products. And when my husband saw this, he decided it was what we really needed in our house. It's a pizza oven. And as you can see, it's been well used. So today I want to show you just how easy it is to make really delicious, crispy crusted pizza in this wonderful oven. But we're going to start with the dough. So like any bread product, the ingredients for pizza dough are very simple. I have in my bowl 4 cups of flour. I'm going to add 2 1/4 teaspoons of yeast. This is what's called an instant yeast. To that, I'll add just about 1/4 teaspoon of salt. I'll give these a stir to combine them. And next I'm going to add 2 1/2 cups of warm water. You want your water between 105 and 110 degrees. You don't want it much hotter than that because water that's too hot will kill your yeast. Too cold, and of course the yeast is going to take longer to rise. I'm just going to stir this to get it well combined in the bowl. Once you've got that well mixed, just give it a few tosses with your hand to get as much of that flour incorporated as you can, and then just dump it out on your perfectly clean counter. And what we're going to do now is just knead this dough until it's a cohesive mass. And as they always say, when dough is ready, you know it's ready because it feels like a baby's bottom. And it really does. I'm going to get all of this in. If you find your hands are getting sticky, just take a little bit of flour and rub that on there. And you may have to do that a couple of times during the kneading process. All in all, the kneading process will take about 10 minutes. You can see this is a fairly firm dough. Now, if you're not familiar with kneading, what you're basically doing is giving your dough a quarter turn, taking the heel of one hand, pushing it away slightly, and pulling it back over, and push, and bring it back over, and push. And that pretty much is all there is to kneading dough. And what this does, of course, is develop the gluten in the wheat, which gives you a nice elastic dough. So this is really just about ready. We'll get it into a nice ball. I'm going to pinch it on the bottom. Let's see, there it is. It's lovely and just like a baby's bottom. So I'm going to take a little bit of olive oil and just drizzle it around the side of my bowl. Put my dough in, upside down. I'm going to flip it over and make sure it's just lightly oiled all the way around. And what I'll do now is grab a piece of saran wrap and cover that and leave it to rise for about an hour. And you need a fairly warm place, at least 70 degrees. If it's a really cold day in your house, you can turn your oven on to its lowest setting, turn it off, and then pop your dough in to rise there. So we're going to let this do its thing. My dough has doubled in size, and now I'm ready to take it out. And what I'm going to do is divide it in 4, since this is enough for 4 about 9-inch pizzas is about what you get out of this. So I'm just going to sprinkle a little flour on my counter and take this beautiful dough out. Just going to knock it down gently. Form it into a roll. And I'm just going to divide it, as I said, in 4. About like so. Now I have ready little parchment squares, and all I'm going to do is sprinkle a little flour on there. And I'm going to form these into a ball of dough. Pinch the bottom really well. Get that nice and round. And put that on the parchment. Now what's going to happen now is I'm going to cover these with a clean kitchen towel and let them rest for about 15 to 20 minutes so that the dough will relax and be nice and easy to roll out. And then we'll start making our pizzas. So my dough has relaxed enough so that I can roll it out. It comes right off the parchment paper. And I'm just going to sprinkle it with a tiny bit of flour on top so that my rolling pin doesn't stick. Flatten this out a little, and what I want to do is roll it into about a 9 or 10 inch circle. I'm rolling it on this parchment paper because this is a trick that I learned from the Breville Company's video, and it is totally brilliant. I don't know if you've made pizza in the past, rolling out your dough and putting it on the paddle with cornmeal or whatever and then shaking it to get it off. And invariably, some of the topping, particularly the cheese, will fall off and get on your pizza stone or whatever you're using and make a mess. This method really avoids most of that. So there's my dough, and that's about as big as I want it. It's lovely and thin. And I've got some homemade sauce, and one of the tricks about making real Italian pizza is not to overload it with toppings. If you go to Italy, you'll be quite surprised to find that the toppings are really what you might consider sparse. It's it's more of a snack usually. So you don't want to overload it. I'm just going to spread this out. You can see the herbs that I've used in making the sauce in there. But I am actually going to take just a little pinch more. This is rosemary, basil, thyme, oregano, and just a pinch to give it a little more flavor. And now I'm going to take some shredded mozzarella cheese and sprinkle that. And again, not too much. I don't want this overloaded. Just about like so. But I am going to use all of that. And then I'm going to take some freshly grated Parmesan cheese and sprinkle that for a little extra flavor. Now, I'll get my paddle and I'm going to transfer the dough on here and then move it over to the pizza oven. I've preheated the oven and it's all ready to go. All I'm going to do is slide the dough right on the parchment paper onto this stone and close the oven. And I'm going to let this cook for exactly 2 minutes, and then I'm going to remove that parchment paper. The bottom crust has firmed up just enough, and you can see this will slide right out with the filling firmly in place. I'll close this up. Just going to move that back a tiny bit. Here we go. And this is going to cook for about 5 minutes. So there's our first pizza, beautifully browned, nice and crisp. Some lovely brown bits on the crust, just what we wanted. I'm going to set that aside and get ready to make another one. So the second pizza I'm going to make for you is my personal favorite, a white pizza. But I like to add a little flavor to it, and what I use is roasted garlic. What I've done is taken 2 fairly big heads of garlic. Just sliced the top off, and I drizzled that with a little olive oil, sealed it tightly in foil, and baked it in a 350-degree oven for about 45 minutes to an hour until it's nice and soft. And when it's done, you want to let it cool a little bit, and you're just going to take it and squeeze all of that delicious garlic into a bowl. A little messy, but we'll get there. All right, I've got my garlic all squeezed out, and what I'm going to do is just add a little bit of olive oil and give this a stir with a whisk to make it into a paste. This is a wonderful thing to have on hand. You can actually just spread this on crostini, and it's absolutely wonderful. You can use it to blend into butter, to make garlic butter, which I've done, and that's also a great thing to have on hand. Pop a little cube of that on top of a hamburger or a steak, and delicious. So for my white pizza, I'm going to take some of this beautiful roasted garlic and just spread it across the base of my pizza dough. A fairly thin layer. As you know, garlic is a fairly strong flavor, but once it's roasted, of course, garlic takes on a slight sweetness, and it's much milder than plain old garlic. It really is a wonderful flavor. So we've got our garlic, and then I'm going to take some mozzarella cheese. It's a little clumpy there, and spread that over. Again, you'll see I'm not overdoing it with the topping in typical Italian fashion. And I'm going to take some more of my freshly grated Parmigiano Reggiano, wonderful cheese. And the final step is some ricotta. Just going to take some small teaspoons and dot that around. As I said, this is probably one of my favorite pizzas. Although the next pizza, which I'm going to show you, which is quite exotic, is also very popular in my family. So again, I'm just going to transfer this to my paddle, pop it in for 2 minutes. I'll be removing the parchment and let it go for about 5 minutes when it should be fully cooked. So over to the oven. White pizza done. Let's transfer that onto a plate and onto the next pizza. Now the last pizza I'm going to make for you, you might think rather exotic. I first had it in a pizzeria up in Vermont, believe it or not, and it has become a real family favorite with some of us. What I'm spreading on here is some fig jam. Delicious, very Italian fig. And it sounds unusual, but trust me, it's a wonderful combination. Just a thin layer of this delicious jam. It smells absolutely wonderful. And I've got some pear that I have sliced. Let's place that around. This pear was quite ripe. Slice is a bit thick. Now just get this all around here. Nice little slice in the middle. And the final ingredient is gorgonzola cheese, also Italian. And I don't know who came up with this flavor combination, but whoever did, in my opinion, deserves a medal. So there it is, as simple as can be. And that is all ready to go in the oven. Just slide it on. And you can see I have used the same piece of parchment for all of these pizzas. So it's going right into my oven. The pear pizza is done to a turn. Cheese is bubbling, and we definitely want to let that settle for a little bit before we eat it. The final pizza of the day is much like the first. It's just tomato sauce with mozzarella and Parmesan and some red pepper. So there goes the last pizza of the day. So there you have it, homemade pizza. A plain cheese and tomato pizza, a white cheese pizza with roasted garlic, an exotic pizza with fig jam, pears, and gorgonzola, and a tomato and cheese pie with some red pepper. Now these can be prepared ahead of time. If you want to reheat them, put them in a 350-degree oven directly on the rack, not on a cookie sheet, because the crust will then soften up a little. Just put them directly on the rack. And if you don't use all of the dough at one time, it can be frozen very successfully. I hope this is something you'll try and enjoy. We love them. For additional recipes and information, please visit my website at bettyskitchenfare.com.